Guy trades in 203 copies of Night Trap into Albuquerque Game Store, and I'm sorry, I'm initiating this one just because I would have loved to have been
That guy.
the store. I would have loved Luna to have been the store that did that, because as fucking cool as it was to find an NWC in a bag of sports games, as cool as it was to get a nearly complete Vectrex collection entirely boxed with all the overlays, including the 3D imager, I don't know that there would have been a more fun story than someone bringing in 203 copies of pre-censor Night Trap. It's a hilarious story.
Now the difference between the pre and the post is just you don't see cleavage. You see the actress on the cover. Instead, they changed it from the woman going.
Yeah, and she's in a more aggressive pose too. She looks less helpless on the revised cover.
Yeah.
That's basically it. But
there's a lot of angles we can take with this. Now the guy that turned this in, he used to work at Blockbuster, it seems. So I guess he worked at one of the distribution centers where I guess when all the games were done, if I guess in the state or 2 or 3, all the copies of the games went back to the distribution center, and I guess this guy somehow procured them. So these are all rental copies, 203 rental copies. Some have boxes from the picture, some don't.
Yeah.
So he comes into the store. He doesn't, from what I guess they interviewed him quickly, he didn't care really what he got from him. He just wanted them gone. He might have more games in this quantity. And this is the thing about retro games, and I bring this up not to say I told you so about stuff like this, is that you never know when stashes like this can happen.
Oh, yeah.
And Night Trap's only a $20 to $30 game.
Yeah,
it's gone up. It's in there.
We sell it for $25.
That's for the first version. That's fair. If this happens even to a game like this, and these hit the market now, these all went to a guy that who knows what's going to happen to him. Just 200 copies of a Night Trap will bring the value down.
Oh yeah, hugely.
Yes, just 200 for a game like Night Trap.
Because we're talking retro, where the market is now significantly more limited. So
Yes.
200 copies is a large influx into the stream of people who would want it.
Especially in a case like this where we know a guy has 200. Now this guy can do two things. He could then put them all in a store and wait 50 years to sell 203 Night Traps at $25 a piece.
Some of them disc only and scratched.
Yes.
Said all of them were probably refurbishable, but
he could mark them down at $5 each and blow them out, and then the market gets hurt, but more people get it. He can put them all on eBay. He can put one up for, say, a month, again, for the next 200, that's the next 15 years. He can do that. Or he can do like a Dutch auction, or just put them all, like I have 200 and do like, I don't know, $5 each buy now, and then all the resellers will buy like 50 copies of them each and just get them all and then hold on to them. Either way, the market is now flooded. At least the knowledge that these are out here.
right.
Because hell, if you want one of these, you can just call the store.
Yeah, and
Say,
be like, what are you charging?
Hey, I see it on eBay for $25. I'll charge you. How about $15 plus shipping? I'm saving $10. You're saving the hassle of putting them on eBay.
Yeah.
Everyone wins.
No fees.
No fees for him. So this is interesting because this guy has more stuff, it seems. He didn't say what he has, but he has more stuff. If we're talking, Night Trap is what, 94? Is it 93 or 94? That's a good era for video games, for 16-bit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stuff that he could have.
Sure.
Now, I'm not sure if he has them all, though, because these were all recalled and Blockbuster then took them out of the store, but...
Right, he could have them because he was looking at a pile of recalled games and said, "What are you doing with these?" And they were like, "Nothing." And he said, "I'll throw you this much." And they're like, "Yeah, take them."
His quote is, "I have a van full of boxes of old Sega stuff. Ton of stuff to unload, and he is nearly concerned with money as he is clearing up room at his house."
So that's what I wanted to touch on. I've met a lot of these types of people. Not people with 203 copies of one game, but I have met a lot of people like this. People who come into me, right? And they will... I remember at the old store, this guy, he had a collection that he said took up the entire second floor of his house. And he said, not in a neat and tidy manner. And he sold off a lot of stuff, but there was a lot of stuff he couldn't sell. And he came and visited us 3 times. And he would just bring bin after bin after bin in. And if you remember the old store, he would fill the entire back room with bins,
Wow.
the middle room with bins, and most of the first room with bins, each of 3 visits. And every time I said, "Dude, this is going to take me forever." And he said, "You know what? Look at it quick and make me an offer, because all I need to do is clear the space."
How old was he?
Um,
50s?
no, I'm gonna put him at late 30s. Late 30s, just looking like he was just done with the hobby, you know. Every time he came in with his wife, and they were talking about what they were gonna do with the upstairs, and I think it was just like I don't think it was like a, don't take this the wrong way, I don't think it was a whip crack thing. I think it was just like a mutual agreement where they were like, maybe they were gonna have kids or something like that. Maybe he was a little bit younger than I'm putting him at, but he just wanted his space back.
Sure.
And I have found, even in my life, when I just want space back in my house, I'm willing to let things go for a lot cheaper than I normally would.
So here's a guy that got into it, got out of it very quickly. This is a guy here, though, that just has a bunch of old stock. And whenever I meet, it always goes back to rental stores. Whenever I meet a collector, say in his 50s, maybe 60s even.
I've met a lot of those too.
That they didn't even necessarily get into game collecting just to get into it, but in the late 90s when all the mom and pop stores were closing, or say Hollywood Video started closing, Palmer Videos on the East Coast, these were changed. Easy Video was a chain on the East Coast in the tri-state area. They didn't know what to do with these games, so they would just close up the stores and then say everything's for sale. So these guys would go in and just buy all the stock.
It's like the guy who sold me the Vectrex stuff. He was in his early 60s, late 50s, and he was just like, dude, I know what this is worth. You can basically just offer me whatever because I'm not moving cross-country with all of this. They just stopped caring at some point. You know, especially if you had a good job.
Sure.
You know, and you've got money and you just don't care.
Get a couple of kids, you need the room.
Yeah. Just
you want
sell it.
Get some money, just get rid of it. You know, you don't need to spend years and years and years maximizing the profit. You just want it out.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's going to happen now, but all those guys in their 60s or 50s, give it 20 years from now, you might see a lot of huge collections hit the market.
Oh, sure.
I mean, hell, you might see a lot hit it in the next 5 or 10 years for guys like me. Yeah, we're done in the move. But
I might actually own a little Samson.
But there is a guy that I made the swap meet every once in a while that he has almost all the games. He has the Steam events, and he got those all in the 90s, all in the mid to late 90s.
Yeah.
Wish I was a little bit older, because I would have bought them all in the mid to late 90s too.
Sure.
I'd have, not that I don't have most of them, but I would have them all for sure. And that's a guy that, give it 15 years, that'll be gone. Either because he unfortunately passes away because he gets too old, or he retires and won't want anything to do with it. It'll be gone at some point. And It all comes back on the market. It's all a cycle. Probably with most collectibles. But for games are such a weird sort of thing that it's not like comics, where I believe if comics are all old and worth a lot of money and they're graded, that's not going to slip through the cracks, where someone's Action Comics #1 is not going to come back on the market and sell for a lot less. For video games, though, they might.
Yeah, no,
they definitely might.
I totally agree.
So that's it about Night Trap. This guy has a lot more Sega stuff. There are places out there where there are stashes of stuff. Happened with Coltron 6-in-1 a few years ago, where tons were found in Mexico, destroyed the price of the game. It went from a $1,000 sealed game to $200 sealed. And I think that's even inflated because there's a lot out there. It could happen to other games. Happened to Akari Warriors in the 2600.
Well, it even happened to more modern games, not to drag the topic out, but I remember when like Persona 2 was going for $80 at one point. And this was when PlayStation 1 was still fairly relevant. And then they found like, you know, a few shipping crates of it, and suddenly it was in bargain bins at GameStop for 25 bones, and that's when I finally picked it up.